Hi, welcome to Salt and Burn This. I'm Sami.
And I'm Valerie.
And this is our Supernatural Rewatch podcast.
Each week, we're going to break down an episode in order with lots of details, so nothing's left out.
And we throw in some personal nuggets and stories and research to mix it up just a little bit.
Because not only are we fans of the show, but like Sam and Dean, we've also had our fill of road trips.
Yeah, but for theater, not for hunting ghosts and demons.
And not in a super sexy muscle car.
Anyway, shall we?
We shall. So, I went back down to Bolivia, North Carolina, and picked up my dog. And before my trip home, I was like, let's take her on a nice long walk, get her all tired and stuff. So out by my parents' house, there's this newly opened nature trail, which is basically just a walk in the woods by this, stream. And it's maybe 3/4 of a mile. So it's nice. And, you're not supposed to let your dogs off, but, it doesn't say don't do it. So I had Julietta off leash. My dad had his dog off leash, and they were just having a great time, And Julieta's a little bit more adventurous than the poodle, which is fine. But every once in a while, she would jump down into the streams and, pity pat her paws in the water and stuff. And a little bit further down the trail, she decided to go in again and did the little pity pat. But when she went in, she stepped into like a hole and didn't see the hole in the water in the stream and just went whoosh. And she was like gone. Yeah. And when she came back up, now she's further downstream than from when she went in. And now the side of the stream is higher. And she does the little, I can't get out. She's like trying to claw her way up the side. And you can see the little panic on her face, like everything has gone wrong in her life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so I go down to get her. Now the big dog comes over. He's like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? Did you want to pet me? And he's like standing between me and getting my dog out of the drink.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm like, you big dopey dog. I mean, he's such a sweetheart. He's a cute dog. But I was like, get out of the way. So I could, bend down and grab her by her harness and like yank her out. And once she was out, she's like, yay, that was great. It was cool and refreshing. And off she goes, does a little, shaky shake.
Yeah.
And off she goes. But I was like, great. Now I've got to put this wet, brackish dog in my car. And then further down the path, still doing sniffy sniffs. I don't know what she found, but she decided to roll in it. And I was like, great, wet, stank dog that just rolled in something, dead by the side of this stream. I'm like, this is going to be a great car ride home. And it was. It was fantastic. So all those out there who have dogs, yay us for those good decisions in life to get a dog.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I just felt so bad for her, though. That look on her face when she fell in was like, the wide eyes and the, scratchy paws. Poor pup.
That happened once to Marvel, sort of, in a yard with a pool, and we kept playing fetch, and when she plays fetch, she's just like, forever. This is all I want to do forever and ever and ever.
In life. Yeah.
So, I was just kind of like walking around the pool because there were some like chores I had to take care of. And she was bringing me the ball and throw it, bring me the ball, throw it. And then there was one time that she brought me the ball. We were right on the edge of the pool. And like, she jumps.
Did she do the back up? Yeah.
She backed up right into the pool.
Oh, no.
And it was like she had literally just gotten groomed that day. Jesus Christ.
And for our listeners, she's a foofy dog. Grooming means something. It wasn't just like, she had a bath. It was.
No, it's like a blowout. It's,
Sorry.
But it was very funny because she
Less
also
about
kind
the
of had
trauma
that same...
of the dog.
Yeah, she's
more
like,
about
oh, what just happened to me?
Oh, doggies, doggies, doggies. Which brings me to a point about this episode.
I wondered when that was coming.
I'm just gonna say no. I'm just gonna say no, and then when we get to it, you know that I said no.
Okay. And I'm just gonna say it's just a TV show. The dog is fine.
No.
No harm has been done to these animals. Season 4, Episode 11, Family Remains. Sam and Dean investigate the appearance of a young female ghost in an abandoned house, but things become more complicated when a family moves in. Written by Jeremy Carver and directed by Phil Screecha.
Yes, the team is
Classic
back.
duo. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I won't say much about the title, about Family Remains, other than I was like, oh, Family Remains. No, that's not. That is Valerie, you and your little bubble. That would be no. I loved this episode. I'll put that out there. I love this episode because it was like 100% true X-Files. It was so X-Files, in a good way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to you, did you feel like this episode was very, as in physically dark? Like more dark than usual?
It's been, yes, it's like they kind of went back. They kind of went back to earlier production values as far as...
I would say even farther, because I watched it on 2 different TVs. The first TV, I know the lighting setting just happens to be very dark in general, but I was like, I cannot see barely anything in this. Is it just the TV? And then I went to a different TV that I know has better settings, and it still was just like, it's really hard to see.
Really hard
much
to see.
of the dark stuff, which was maybe the intention.
I think I'm going to say, without knowing for sure, I'm going to say I think they absolutely did that on purpose to skew our perception of what was happening.
Yeah.
Of what was happening in this episode. Because we had to believe in what Sam and Dean believed in.
Yeah.
And I have some questions about that as we get to it. But this was indeed, by the way, almost an X-Files episode. It mirrored an X-Files episode called Home. And I think Kim Manners directed it. And it was one of those episodes that was so disturbing that like they only showed it once.
Wow.
Like they only aired it once. They didn't run it again in reruns because they got so many complaints about it.
Wow.
Because it was like truly disturbing. And what I love about this is that Eric Kripke took that idea of those happenstance and said, you know what we need to do? We need to make an episode that is so disturbing that the networks only play it once, and that's it, because they get so many write-ins about never play this again. That was their intention of this episode, based on Kim Manners' experience with that X-Files.
Wow.
And not only that, they took it a step further. They hired one of the actresses from that X-Files episode to play a character in this episode.
Oh, really? The mom, I'm guessing?
No, the housekeeper. So it was a small bit. She's the
okay.
housekeeper that Sam and Dean interview. She was one of the key characters in this episode.
Wow.
In the
Interesting.
X-Files episode. I was like, supernatural.
Wow. This episode is kind of a web then, and I'll get more into that when there's a good time to bring it up. But since we're on the topic of guest stars, I just want to mention a couple more. Bradley Stryker, who plays Uncle Ted, he does like a million things. Like he gets more work than I've ever seen before, I think.
Right? Are you like, who's that guy? Oh,
yeah. But he's notably, he's also in the Buffyverse. He's in an episode of Angel, and he's also a future Supernatural repeat. He plays in an episode in like the last season, I think.
Okay.
So definitely a lot of time passed in between this one and that one.
Yeah, he's not Uncle Ted in that future episode.
No, he's a different character.
Be hard to do.
Well, you never know. With Supernatural, you truly
you really never know.
Dylan Minnette, who plays Danny, the son, only mentioning him just because now he's like super big time. He plays the lead in that show 13 Reasons Why. I don't watch the show, but I do know that it was like people were talking about it for a while.
Yeah, it was popular.
Yeah, so that's just pretty cool.
And he did a great job in this episode too.
He did. He's a good actor. He's a good kid actor. And then Jerry Rousseau, who plays Bill Gibson, just like a tiny little blip in the beginning of this episode, but he's also a Supernatural repeat. His previous episode was Hollywood Babylon, season 2, episode 18, and he played Billy Beard.
Yes. Yeah. That was a standout. But you're missing, I think, the biggest name, the biggest guest star name.
I didn't recognize anybody else. I looked through the whole cast and I was just like, I don't really know any of these other people.
Then this is an age thing then, and I'll play that card. Helen Slater, who plays the mom.
I recognized her, but I was just but I didn't see nothing was popping out in her filmography that I was like, I don't.
She was Supergirl. She was the original Supergirl. She was very big in the 80s and 90s in all those 80s, 90s style films. She was very popular. And there's a lot of people who thought that she and Christian Slater were brother and sister.
Weird. I don't.
They're
not say that, but yeah.
They're not, because they just have the same last name.
Okay.
But they also starred in a movie together where they were brother and sister, where everyone's like, oh my gosh, they're brother and sister, and they play brother and sister in the movies. Like, no, they just have the same last name. So in the 80s and 90s, Helen Slater was a name. She was a very popular actress back then. But her biggest call to fame was Supergirl.
Right. I did see that on her filmography list, but I've never seen an episode. I've never even really heard about that show except for the current one. And I do think she's in the current one.
Probably as like a mother. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. She was back in the day when Christopher Reeve was still Superman, and before his accident, before he was paralyzed by a horseback riding accident.
Right.
So that's how old these movies are, is that as soon as the Superman series was done, she called Christopher Reeve and said, are you okay with me being Supergirl? And, do you think am I doing this right? Is this a character we should do? And he said yes. So as a young actress. Yeah. So I think that's really cool. So it's okay that not everybody knows who she is, but she was as far as I'm concerned, she was the standout star name of this episode, even though in the Supernatural terms, not so much.
Right. All right. So starting with this episode, we have our recap with, keeping in mind that this was after a couple of months break. So I think that's why the recap was the way it was, because it was Cass's entrance, his big dramatic, Lilith and Alistair reminding Dean about his fun time in hell, and then Dean finally revealing it to Sam, in depth. So that was
this recap,
it was a pretty short, succinct recap.
I thought it was interesting, and we don't normally dive into the recap, but the one thing I will say about this particular recap is both Lilith and Alistair said things that we've heard before over and over and over again that now have 100% different meaning to me.
Yeah.
And it's Lilith says, oh, wait, hold on. She's like, don't you remember how much fun you had in hell?
Yeah.
We learn about this at the end of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Alistair says, we, what is it? Don't you remember how close we were in hell?
Yeah.
Whole different meaning at the end of this episode. Whole different meaning. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I see this before?
Right. Yeah.
I thought it was all ironic.
Right.
The way they were speaking.
Also, because it has a different meaning even before you see this episode, based on, Dean's revelation to Sam, or like the reveal of what actually happened to him in hell. And then even further, for this reveal at the end of this one. So
yes,
it's like
which is what
kind of.
Yeah,
I don't even know if they meant it to happen that way, but it happened that way.
A happy accident. You ready?
So now, we have just like an old dude drinking a beer, watching TV. Just a quick note: there's like a pass across like a credenza or something of family photos. They all seem very bright and happy. He does not seem bright and happy at all.
Bright and happy. No one in those pictures was smiling, though. They may have been bright photos. Not a single person was smiling in those pictures.
Oh yes, yeah. I was gonna say that I guess the brightness kind of belies the happiness part of it, but I did notice that there wasn't any smiling.
I thought it was funny that the camera pushed to the house to show us the location is like big house in a field, and then you come into the house, and in the house is a picture of the big house in a field.
Yeah. That's really kind of standard country house fare. I think my grandmother had a painting of her house in her home.
In the house. Oh
funny, she also lived in Nebraska.
There's our connection.
This is very on point for me because, well, let's get through the now and then we can do our map quest.
Cornfield, house, yes.
Pictures. He's drinking a beer. The lights flicker and turn off, and he cannot turn them on. He tries to leave, probably to go like turn on the circuit breaker or something, and he can't. The door that he's trying to open is locked from the outside.
Yep.
A different door starts to creak open very slowly.
Methodically slow. Yeah. And around the corner is this like disheveled, pale, almost black and white looking girl walks around the corner and into the room, and she's almost Ring like, like the girl from The Ring. Not quite a little bit. Not quite as scary, but of course the guy is like, how can this be? What do you? Then it turns into stay away from me, and she gives the camera this like little smile, just like and just then proceeds to walk closer and closer to this man, not at all stopping when he's screaming, stop, stay away. And she reaches out for him, and then we see a splatter of blood over this wonderful cross-stitch Home Sweet Home framed piece of work. And then his bloody hand smears the blood on the walls and title splash. And I'm like, ooh, we're starting to get back into the splatters.
Blood splatters.
Yes. Getting back into the splatters.
Yeah. So as previously mentioned, our map quest here is Stratton, Nebraska.
Yes, which does exist.
It does exist. And in fact, they called it a literal village because the population in 2020 was 310 people.
Oh my god.
And I have like a picture of the map here, but it's basically, if you're looking at the state of Nebraska, it's like very, very at the southern edge of the state line, just before it goes into a panhandle.
Okay.
So it's almost in that corner at the bottom, like as it goes up into the panhandle, but 310 people.
Wow. So not a town?
A village.
A village.
A village. And I don't know. I should look that up. I should look up the distinction between, village, town, city,
right? Township,
etc.
Yeah, what does all this mean?
People. That is wild. I thought that I grew up in a small town. Not even close.
No, 300 is small.
But no, this house absolutely evoked Nebraska to me, especially when they go inside a little bit later. I'm like, oh my god, this just reminds me so much of my grandmother's farmhouse.
I'm like, oh wait.
Yeah, except for the
murder,
the murders and things. Gotcha. All right, so then we cut to, after the splash, the Impala in a like secluded, I don't know, driveway of sorts,
like off the side of the road,
almost driveway. Yeah. Getting a good night's sleep, sort of.
why not a motel? They're so good at the motels. But tonight, I guess
Maybe there
just
were no
hunting.
vacancies
Well,
today.
Sam does say later that they like just closed a case 2 hours ago. So maybe they were just like so
Too
exhausted.
tired to drive.
They
Yeah.
just pulled off and slept. Except Dean is not sleeping.
No.
Sam was sleeping. This time, Dean is doing the research. He's a little jacked up, like he's like, oh, it's adrenaline. That's why I'm, up and still researching instead of sleeping. And it turns out they've been hunting for like a solid month since the last time we tuned in, and it's been nonstop. And Sam finally says, dude, we've been going nonstop because you don't want to face what you revealed to me a month ago.
Yep.
So maybe it's time to, pump the brakes and let's talk. But oh, right, we're not talking about this, are we?
Yeah.
And you know what? We're not talking about it because Dean goes right back to, yes, I have a case. Yes. How about this guy who was hacked to death inside a locked room inside a locked house? Sam, knowing that he's like up against a brick wall when it comes to Dean and talking, he's like, yeah, all right, sounds like fine. A ghost.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yep, I think it's a ghost. Let's go. So off they go because Sam loses that one.
Yeah.
Didn't fight very hard, but that's okay.
No. So in the next morning, they pull up to a farmhouse that has a for sale sign in the front. Little do they know the sold part of the for sale sign has like fallen off and into the bramble of weeds below. They go inside, they search the house. Very classic farmhouse kitchen. This was actually inside of a house. This was not on stage.
This wasn't a set.
No, this was part of the location. It was the kitchen and then a different room that they mentioned. They didn't classify what room, but the kitchen and another room were part of the location.
Part of that. Nice.
Everything in the like all the like spooky stuff happens on stage.
Soundstage. Yeah. Yeah. That's hard to squeeze a camera into the crawl space of an actual house without tearing the house apart.
Yeah.
It is really hard to light inside actual freestanding, prefabricated houses and locations, which is why they do a lot of stuff on soundstage.
If you were paying attention as the boys are searching the house, there is a camera view from like behind the walls or behind doors. Like you can see just little, cracks of light looking at the boys from somewhere else. So it's like, oh, something's watching them.
Yep. And it's funny because when I was watching that, I was like, oh, they're watching through the vents. And I went, oh, that reminds me, I have to like clean my vents. It was just a random thought, but it popped up into my head while I was watching. I was like, look at how clean that view is. I need to clean my vents. I cleaned my fan blades the other day.
Were they gross?
They were. I can't believe that this stuff wasn't like flinging off the fan onto me.
Oh, it was like, was.
No. Yeah, it probably was. But I mean, it was really, I mean, the fan blades are white, but they were not white when I mean, worse when I lived in LA because, come to LA, see the air. Oh my gosh, my fan blades.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did that, but now I think I need to do my vents.
Then it's like leading into other things. It's like, oh, what other kind of gross, grimy things do I need to finally pay attention to?
Right. But a part of me is like, do I really want to go back there? Like, who's in there? And I went to that place in my head that went, I wonder if the family that's moving in that bought the place knew about the murder. And probably not, I'll say, because why would you move your family into a murder house? And a part of me is like, don't they have to? Doesn't the like realtor have to disclose this? No. Everyone thinks that, but they don't. Not in all states. Like California, yes. If the death happened within 3 years of the house being sold, yes, they have to disclose it.
Wow.
In most other states, you don't have to unless the buyer specifically says, so was anybody killed or did anybody die?
It's kind of like if you're a cop, like if you ask, are you a cop? You got to tell me if you're a cop. Yeah, but they don't have to say so otherwise. Wow. Ooh, that's good to know for when I go house shopping sometime in my,
put that
old
on
age.
List of things. Yep. I know. It's like, it's never going to affect me. I'm not buying a house anytime soon. Until I get somebody who wants to buy me a house.
Right.
And then I'll ask the question.
Okay, so inside of this house, in the kitchen, they do notice that there is a piece of wall that looks like very obviously plastered over in a very
really
kind of
shoddy patchwork
job.
Yeah.
So Sam's like, oh, it must be a dumbwaiter. Like there are, it's about
all
that
these old
time,
houses had a dumbwaiter. Yeah.
which
is like,
I lived in a house that had a dumbwaiter.
really?
Yes.
Did you watch unrelated The Watcher? Did you watch that series? I think it was on Netflix or Prime, called The Watcher.
I don't think so.
Okay. Another thing for you to go back and watch. Because this house has a dumbwaiter in it, and it plays a pivotal role in the movie. So if you ever do come across a house that has a dumbwaiter, or a dumbwaiter that has been patched over, tear the fucker out. There you go. All I'm gonna say. Okay, so
if
just
this episode
scary.
didn't prove it alone, then yeah.
Right. Just so you know, the wind kicked up here, and it's just really funny that now that we're talking, getting into the spooky, it's like my lights, my string lights that are out there are like, they're not flickering, but they are blowing. They are blowing. So if they flicker, you're probably gonna see me go, I'm gonna go.
Okay, no, here's the thing. Right when you said that, I'm sure it didn't happen on your end, but my view, it got dim. I'm not even fucking kidding you. I am not fucking kidding you.
Will you tell me if you see something behind me that I don't see? Okay. Yes. Okay, because
that was so weird. I mean, it was probably just like you like going like this, and adjusting the autofocus or something, but it was...
Sure it was. I wasn't anywhere near my camera.
Awful timing.
Right, but just so you know, that's the closet door. That's the front door. Just let me know if you see anything, move.
Okay, we should move on. Maybe we should get through this.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Powering through. All right, so dumbwaiter. All right, so they go into another room, and this time the EMF starts going off, and Sam's like, "Ooh, EMF," and Dean like looks out the window. He's like, "Nope, power lines," because they're like literally by like a substation or something. So EMF is not reliable because there's a power station right next to the house.
Yes.
So,
however, a different clue or a better clue may be the creepy as fuck doll head that's just sitting on the floor of an otherwise empty closet in this room.
Because it's not just a doll head; it's like a doll head that is like plucked bald, but still has some little sprouts of hair.
Yeah, it looks like the doll head that's in Toy Story, the one that like Sid like tortures and turns into like a spider machine.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly that doll head minus the winky eye. Yeah. So the room's freshly painted. Blood splatter's all gone. Yet there's a doll head left in there. And I love that they're like, so do you think this was put here? And they're like, no, we think the guy left the doll head behind. That seems like Bill. And while they're looking at the doll head, they hear like an engine outside, and they look out the window and they see, lo and behold, an SUV and a moving truck pull into the driveway. And they're like, well, so much for it not being not sold, I guess.
Right. Whoopsies.
A dog, a family, 2 kids. The teenage girl is not happy about there not being any signal at the house.
Yes.
The young boy is like, all into the dog. I hear Buster, play with the ball, and the snarky brother-in-law is like, here we go. And the wife is all uncertain about, was this the right idea?
They definitely seem like they're city folks moving to the country.
Yes, they're excited but skeptical.
Yeah, and it did kind of give me just a touch, a vibe of Beetlejuice. When that family like rolls up into their ghost house, and it's
like they're the invaders.
Like,
yes, and the parents are completely clueless about how this move is affecting their kids.
Yeah.
So Sam and Dean, who are in the house, now have to make some sort of like, they have to come out of the house. So they come out as, what are they? Federal county code enforcement guys, and tells this family that they have to go because there's asbestos and a gas leak. No, so not just asbestos, not just a gas leak, but there's asbestos and a gas leak. You need to go. And if you don't go, you're going to get fined or you're going to get thrown in jail. So bye.
Yeah, I just want to say, as someone who works kind of in a code related industry, I don't think that there's any way there's no such thing as like you'll go to prison if you stay in a house that's not
A house that is
code.
unhealthy for you. Yeah, that's kind of like up to you.
Right. Maybe
Yeah.
they would get fined, probably, because
Sure.
that's what, code enforcers are there for, is to make the city money based on
Sure.
the code violations.
Absolutely. I forgot to mention that their code enforcement names are Mr.
right.
Stanwyck and Mr. Babar, which Stanwyck Dean's used before, because Stanwyck is a name from Fletch, from the movie
Yes.
Fletch. And Babar is actually an alias within the movie Fletch. It's an alias that Fletch uses. He calls himself Dr. Babar, and somebody calls him out on it. He's like, "You mean like the elephant?"
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's like, is this a reference to the elephant?
Yes, exactly. So he's called out on his, on his alias. So it's funny that Dean goes back to Stanwyck, but then adds in the Mr. Babar. So little Fletch call outs there.
That's funny. This family did not catch up that.
They didn't. I think they were still just like, what? Why are these
you
two
kidding
guys
me?
coming out of our house? Yeah,
and forcing us to go to yet another motel with hooker sheets.
See, that was one of the lines from the teenage daughter that I was like, boom, she gets it. She's like, I hope this hotel has hooker sheets. And I think Dean like raised an eyebrow at that, which is funny. He didn't comment on it, but I was like, ooh, she's speaking Dean's language.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And then off they go to interview their old housekeeper.
Because she was the one, it turns out, who found the body. I love that she's describing the scene. She's like, "Oh, there was blood everywhere," and they're like, "Well, where was Mr. Gibson?" She's like, "Everywhere." So he wasn't just stabbed to death. This was a brutal scene. He was like everywhere.
Yeah,
great delivery. And again, this is the actress who played the mom in Home and the X-Files, which is terrible. I loved it, but it's terrible. So she not only has information about the murder scene, she has a little bit of information about the family history and the house. And it turns out that Mr. Gibson's wife died in childbirth. And then 20 years later, the daughter, the child that was born, killed herself in the attic. And then oddly enough, this housekeeper has photos of the family.
Yeah.
And I was like, why does the housekeeper, who says that all this happened before she even showed up, this was 20 odd years ago at least. Like, how does the housekeeper have, like, why does she have these pictures? I just was like, why? That's weird. Weird that she has these.
So they can be used later in the episode. That's why.
Okay. Yes, I know. But I was like, that's weird. But the other thing, Dean and Sam dig a little bit deeper with her, and they're like, so did anything weird ever happen while you were in the house? And, like, did the lights flicker? Did, things get moved around after you had, after you put something away, was something not where you put it? And none of that happened, which is all like typical supernatural ghosty type of activities in a house. And she says, no, none of that happened. But I did hear like rustlings in the walls, which potentially could have been rats.
Yeah.
And, Dean's like, ooh, must have been a big rat. She's like, I don't know. Never saw any rats. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Which, isn't really unusual. It's not like rats make themselves known if you have vermin.
No. No, exactly. But just an interesting, she's like, I can't say if there were rats or not. I just never saw them. So I don't know what was scratching in the walls.
Could have been anything. So back at the house, the family is back. They didn't ever, or maybe they just did a quick turnaround, like had a discussion with themselves in the car.
Uncle Ted, these guys are full of shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Uncle Ted comes out of the house and he's like, these guys are full of shit. There's no asbestos. There's no gas leak. I should know. I've been in construction for a long time. There's nothing. So who were they? Who cares?
Let's just unpack.
Kate, the daughter, sees a creepy girl in the window. I feel like this is very Beetlejuice. I think that there is a scene in Beetlejuice where
you can
Winona
see
Ryder looks up and sees the couple.
Sees the couple in the window looking down at her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except whereas the Winona Ryder character isn't scared, she's like, the daughter in this episode not screams, but is like, huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Could have sworn I saw somebody up in the window, creepy. Now, granted, the ghost of Gina Davis and what's his butt, not scary looking out the windows. This girl looking out a window, kind of scary looking.
Very scary, yeah. Alec Baldwin.
Oh, thank you. What's his butt?
What's his butt is Alec Baldwin. Yeah, the mom, she kind of mistakes that for like her either acting out or feeling uncomfortable about this move, you know, so then she's like, oh, don't worry, honey, it's all gonna be fine.
We're gonna be happy here. Yeah. It's a new start. Yeah. So upstairs or later, the son is, instead of unpacking, he's playing video games, which, you know, who can blame him? Yeah. And while he's playing, like, his closet door does the old free, opens by itself, and out rolls like a ball.
Yeah.
And instead of being freaked out by this, the kid like picks up the ball and he starts walking towards the closet like, hello? Yeah. You know, anybody there? And I mean, he must see somebody, because he says, you know, it's okay, don't be afraid.
He's talking to something.
Yeah.
We don't see, because
we don't see it.
It's too dark.
Yeah. But he's clearly not afraid of what he sees.
Yeah. Downstairs, mom is talking about gardening.
Yes, trying to be normal. Mm-hmm.
Trying to be normal. Dad is smelling terrible things in the cabinet, which isn't that just such the joy of like moving into a new house, is then finding all of these like new mysterious wrong things that weren't a part of the inspection or the initial viewing. Right. I'm like, how do they? I'm thinking they just bought the house sight unseen. That's my guess. No, I feel like my family has been through this so many times. Granted, we never like smelled anything like, you know, like rotting death. Carcasses in the in the kitchen cupboard. Like a dead raccoon in the kitchen, yeah. But without fail, with as many houses as we have, well, my parents have bought, whenever we move in, then it's like all of a sudden something falls apart, or there's like all these little things that start to add up. Without fail, that happens. Okay. So I was just thinking of the idea of the smell. Like that would have been something they noticed. Yeah. In a walkthrough, but maybe not. Maybe they didn't open the cabinets. Maybe they just looked around and went, this looks great. This will be perfect for us. Right. You'll clean up the blood splatter and we'll move right in. Yeah. So and then that kind of like veers it kind of veers into like kind of a vague conversation between the two parents of like, oh, what are we doing? You know, what are we trying to fix? But this is going to be better. It's a new place. You'll see. Again, very vague, but something bad definitely happened last year. They needed to make a change, even if it meant uprooting the kids and moving them out to the country, to this house. So Sam and Dean show up and they see that the family is there and they're like, fuck. You know, they thought their plan worked. And they thought they scared them off, but no. So now they have to deal with how do we do this? Yeah. And the question is, do we tell them the truth? Yeah. Nope. Not going to go that route this time. Not going to go that route. So in the meantime, the parents have discovered that the word go has been like scratched like in crayon in one of the walls. I'm assuming it's in the family room or something, you know, big word in red crayon, go. And they automatically think it's one of the kids. So they call Danny down and try to convince him that he won't be punished as long as he cops to having drawn on the walls with crayon, which I think for the age of this child, he would not have done that. Yeah, FYI. I agree. But the dad is convinced that he did it. And the mom is like, you know, let's go easy on him. The teacher said he'd probably act out. So, you know, whatever, you know, denial from the softy mom. But dad's kind of being a douchebag and is pushing the kid. And the kid's like, I didn't do this, you know, and it was the girl on the walls, you know, and then it's like, oh, so now we have a name for this thing. Yeah. The girl in the walls. Right, yeah. The girl in the walls that likes me and doesn't like you. Like, doesn't like grown-ups. Yep. Said, I can stay, but you guys have to go. And if you stay, she's going to get really, really mad. Which, of course, now the parents think that he's just lying and they get mad and send him back to his room.
You know, don't listen to the kid. Don't take the time to listen to the kid. Nope. Nope. And yeah, hates grown-ups. And of course they don't believe him. So cut to the daughter, the teenage daughter, in bed.
Yeah. Yeah, she's laying in bed, and then you hear off camera just kind of some scuffly, rustly noises, and she starts talking to the dog next to her. You know, Buster, panting. I understand. I hate it here too. Yep. She has her hand off, and then there's like gross licking sounds, and she reacts
a really
like,
slobbery
ew, gross.
dog.
Yeah.
It's like, Buster, God, that's really gross.
Yeah.
And then looks up in time to see
Buster coming into the room.
Like nosing his way into the room, and you know, sees her closet door open and then close.
Yeah, she's like, oh shit, and then like turns, and then all of a sudden the closet door like slams shut on its own. Yep. Scream.
And brilliant scream. And I love the way they edited this. It was like, scream, cut it off. Yep. We don't need to hear how long she screamed. Yeah. We just know that it was probably a big one. And this is, again, in this next scene, I fall in love with the daughter again. Because while she is completely freaking out about what just happened, her synapses, her idea of what just happened is like, Casper the pervy ghost just assaulted me.
Yeah.
You know, I was just molested by a ghost. Yeah. You know, she's more ooged out than spooked out by this happenstance. And I'm just like, God love her. You know, I totally thought she could have been the diva bitch teenager.
No.
And she wasn't. She was just like, ah.
Yeah, it's just like, there is a ghost in this house.
Ghost in my room. Yep. And the son is like, no, it's the girl in the wall.
No, but he was kind of like, see, I told you guys, there's somebody here. So we're not doing these things. And then all of a sudden the boys crash into the house, and they're like, what's happened? We heard a scream. We heard a scream.
Which totally reminded me of their entrance in Metamorphosis when they thought they were saving the girl from the guy who was going to try to like eat her. And they're like, we're here to rescue you. No? Okay.
No, slowly back up. But that did not happen here. But there is a bit of like the parent or the adults going like, you know, what are you guys doing here? You guys are blah, 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 blah.
You touching my daughter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What? No.
No, you have a ghost. Just going to put that out there. You guys have a ghost, and we need you to go.
Here the adults are like, no, you guys are crazy, and the kids are like, thank you, we do have a ghost.
We do have a ghost. Yes. And I love that. I think it was Dean who says, you're in danger, you have to get out of this house. And I immediately went to Ghost, the movie, with Whoopi Goldberg saying, you know, Molly, you're in danger, girl. So I was like, oh my God. Because Sam and Dean are not full Sam and Dean in this. You know, they're not. I mean, because if they really wanted to, they could have just shoved that family right out of the house. Right. You know? Right. So there's a little bit of comedy in this. And so that's why I went to the Molly, you're in danger, girl.
Right. So to quickly pass through this next scene for the sake of Valerie and other, you know, sympathetic people here, there's a series of events that happen and escalate. Buster leaves the house. The circuit breaker shuts down. Like the whole house, all of the lights go out. As the family is panicking, there are doggy whimpers and screams outside. Everyone rushes outside, and then there is a message on the side of the moving van in blood that says, too late. And there are no more doggy sounds, so...
Nope. Just gonna say, no. TV shows and movies where the dog dies, no. And by the way, giant swath of blood leading up to the truck where it's written in blood, too late. It was a lot of blood. And anytime I hear a dog crying, like whimpering, it's like, no.
Does that make me heartless that I'm just like, because I know that it's fake?
No, it doesn't. I just buy into, I just buy into it. I 100% buy into people's connections to their animals.
Yeah. When it's a movie like Marley and Me, It's Different, you know, that I was like bawling like almost the whole time, because it's the you know, the story is, the dog is central to the story. In this one,
Right.
it's just he
He's
comes
not.
and goes, and he's a cute dog, and I'm sure the family loves him, but I think it's just like, I know that it's fake, and this is just
It's just to tug at our emotions to show
yes, it's an
that there's
easy
some
way to show
evil.
that evil is happening, and
Yes,
you know, all the sounds off camera are
that
probably a person going
okay, fine. I still don't like it. I don't like
Moving
it. I
on.
don't like it when dogs are protecting their humans and then
Yeah.
die for their efforts.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the second time Supernatural has done it, because Bobby's dog got disappeared.
Disappeared by Meg.
Yeah, me.
All
right. Moving on. The boys are now like, okay, everybody, you gotta go. We will take care of it. We do this all the time. We are experts at ghost things.
Yep.
But no one can, because all of the tires are slashed on all of the vehicles. They cannot go anywhere. Not only that, but the Winchester's weapons trunk has been completely ransacked.
Yep.
They have
nothing
no defense.
Except guess what? Flashlights.
Yeah,
the
flashlights.
only thing that's left in the trunk are the trusty flashlights that Dean relied on for yellow fever.
Yeah.
And I love Dean. He's like, what ghost messes with a man's wheels? Yes, right.
You can't see me, but I was mimicking Dean's very proud flashlight moment from
the flashlight.
I got it.
Well, messes with a man's wheels, which made me think of astronaut. And then during all this, while they all figure out that all the cars have slashed tires, the ghosty girl like boop pops up in the cornfield, and the daughter, of course, sees it. She's the first one and only one who sees it, because when they all turn their flashlights to the cornfield,
nothing.
Ghosty girl is gone. And Sam and Dina like have their little aside to each other, like, what ghost leaves the house that they're haunting?
Yeah.
You know, they're like, let's get back inside.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I was like, good question. Let's get back inside. So once inside, once they convince the family to now go back inside, they're pouring a salt circle and, you know, giving the exposition of, you know, stay in the salt circle. And I love, again, the kids, they're like, so how do you know all this? And Sam and Dean are like, well, this is what we do. And they're like, oh, you hunt ghosts? Yeah, like Scooby-Doo? Plays right into Dean's psyche, you know?
Yes.
And he's like, better. You know, he almost like, you know, was like, yeah, Scooby-Doo. But he's like, yeah, but better.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, the brother, who I've now nicknamed Dickhead Ted, questions, you know, Sam and Dean, which he has every right to do, because so far they've kind of been fucking things up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they came in and they lied about like asbestos and gas leaks and tried to like force them away from their move-in day.
Right.
They burst in, you know, after Kate is like yelling about some ghost molesting her.
Yes.
Now their dog is dead, the tires are slashed, and like everything has gone wrong since these guys showed up.
Yeah, so, they're like, well, you know, we need to go. Let's go outside. It'll be safe. Let's go back inside. It'll be safe, you know? So I get it. You know, Ted's like, why should we trust you? But he's like, it's not a ghost. It's not that why should we trust you? He's like, this is not a ghost. This is some backwoods hillbilly bitch, and I'm not going to wait for her to go deliverance on my ass, which... Good call.
Yes. Yes.
Can't blame him on that.
This is also the second Deliverance reference that Supernatural has done.
Yep. And again, a movie, if you haven't watched it, you need to go and watch it. And
I really don't want to. I have no desire to go see Deliverance.
You get it. That's the thing. You don't actually have to see the movie to get what the reference is.
No, I've seen like a couple of like clips of it, and I'm like, you know what? That's all right. I can go living without seeing this movie, I think.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny. There were a couple of things in here that, oddly enough, recall Parks and Recreation to me, because there's a character, Leslie Knope, who's played by Amy Poehler. Her mother also works in government, and she plays like a total hard ass. And she's debriefing her boyfriend, who's about to go into like a government meeting with her. It's like, no, this is how you have to act with her. Like, she does not fuck around. And one of the blips about her personality is that Deliverance is her favorite movie.
I don't know if it's anybody's favorite movie. How can it be?
Well,
How
that's
can it be?
who
That's
this woman is
hysterical.
supposed to be. It is hysterical. So that's Parks and Rec reference number 1, or like crossover number 1. The second one is coming soon.
Through Deliverance. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So Dean, as a side note, is determined to not let anybody die tonight. He's a little bit more gung-ho-y in the rescuing operation of this hunt, as opposed to the killing and destroying of whatever this is. It's more about saving these people. Yeah. Which is uncharacteristic, I think, for Dean. I mean, as his main motivation.
Sure.
Not that the motivation isn't always there, but as his main motivation.
I agree. So much so that he's like threatening Uncle Ted with a gun, which he doesn't have.
Yeah. And Sam's a little worried. He picks up on that. He's like, "You doing okay?"
Yeah.
And just doing the check-in. And Dean's like, "Yeah, I'm good." So Sam goes off to the attic to check things out, because the attic is where the daughter hanged herself. So maybe they'll find some sort of information or ghostly remains.
Yes, because this is where the pictures come into play, because they show the kids the photos and like, which one of these people, if any of them, were the girl that you saw. Both Danny and Kate say, "Oh, it was the daughter. She was a lot dirtier and like,
stringier."
Messier. Yeah, but this was definitely her.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the daughter who hung herself. Maybe she wasn't cremated, or maybe she's attached herself to something else in the house.
Right.
So that's why Sam goes upstairs to the attic to go search for a thing that she may have attached herself to.
Right. Because it was the housekeeper who said, "Oh, by the way, both the mother and the daughter were cremated."
Yes. Yeah.
So Dickhead Ted has a Fonzie crack, which I don't understand. He's like, he busts Dean's balls about the salt circle.
Like Dean thought that he was so cool, and just like, hey.
I guess. I'm like, he's not even wearing his leather coat in this. Yeah. So it's like, that's what Fonzie's known for, is like the black leather coat and the ape. But yeah. All right. So Ted busts Dean's balls about kosher salt or not kosher salt. Who cares? But while this is going on, the house is starting to like creak a little bit. Like you hear like the floorboards creaking
and creaks. Yeah.
Yep. And a door once again slowly opens, and in comes the girl. And much to Dean's surprise, as she walks across the room towards the salt circle, steps over the salt circle and directly at them, and is pulling out a knife at the same time. And he's like, "Oh, not a ghost."
Whoops.
Not a ghost. And Ted's like, "Well, why don't you shoot her with the gun that you have?" And Dean's like, "Okay."
Whoops. Lied about the gun.
Don't have any gun. And so basically it's like, whoops, run. Not a ghost, she's a girl, run.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and it's funny how confident he was up until that point. He's just like, "Don't worry. It's fine. We're inside the salt circle. She can't cross it."
Yeah. He even has like a fire poker, an iron fire poker, and is like, "No worries, I got this." Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Because this girl goes like full banshee on him and is like,
"Oh, that's a great description." Yeah.
And like slashing at Dean. Meanwhile, everybody else has scattered and run, and Dean's left to wrestle with this girl.
Yeah.
With this girl, not a ghost. And just before Dean gets overpowered by her, Sam comes back and is like, "Hey," distracts her and like shines a flashlight in her eyes, which she then does the whole both hands up, like
a
type of
Dracula,
reaction. Yes, exactly. And runs off. She like runs into a closet and disappears. So, but when we see her face though, and right before she holds up her hands, her eyes are like this milky white.
Yeah,
not demon eyes.
Odd
not
kind of.
Yeah, like
eyeball.
Bluey white. Yeah. So off she runs and disappears, and they're like, "Oop."
Literally disappears into a wall. Like she goes into the closet, shuts the door. Sam rushes after her and opens the closet door. Nothing. Like
nope. No hole in the wall. Nope. She's gone.
Yeah.
And Dean has to explain to Sam that she's not a ghost, just a girl.
Yeah.
And Psycho Nell is what I think Dean described her as, which Nell was a Jodie Foster movie. Go ahead.
Here's the second Parks and Recreation callback. which I did. This was absolutely not on purpose.
Oh my gosh.
There are two characters who are going on speed dating. One, who's played by, oh God, what's her name? Rashida Jones, is really terrible at it and very, very awkward. The other character, who's played by Retta, is just like, what the hell is wrong with you? That's the worst thing I've ever seen. Are you Nell from the movie Nell?
Oh my God. Oh, okay. So anyone who doesn't know what Nell is, it's a Jodie Foster movie about this girl who was raised in isolation, like in the backwoods, and it's just her, like, you know, being introduced into modern
society, I guess.
Society, essentially, yeah.
Another movie I've not seen, but the only way I know this is because of Parks and Rec.
You mean Stargate? Oh wait, no, sorry, that's me. All
that's
right.
You. So anyway, so it can't be, if it is human, then it can't be the daughter, because she would have had to have been 50 years old by now. You know, yeah, if she did survive the actual, like, if she didn't actually kill herself. Sam also didn't really find anything except a diary up there. Dean says, like, man, I wish you would have found a howitzer up there. And I had to look up what that was. And I saw a picture of it, and I was like, Jesus, that is some really heavy artillery.
That's a big ass, yeah.
It's a big ass gun.
That's what my brother used to fire in in Iraq. Yeah. Yeah, he used to train other soldiers to use the howitzer.
Jesus. Like, I'm looking at it now, I'm like, really? You need a howitzer against this, like, human
to take
girl?
Care of this girl?
Yeah.
If he could have said, you know, bazooka, which would have been a little bit more,
right.
I mean, a little less destructive, but still also awesome and destructive. But yeah, all right. So everyone comes out of hiding at this point, except for Danny.
Yeah.
Everyone's coming out from wherever they ran to. No Danny.
The family starts panicking.
Yep.
Of course.
And so Dean's idea is, we can't go back in the house. You guys should hide in this shed that's, you know, off the house. So they know that there's no, like, tunnels, that it's just the walls, the windows are boarded up. There's one door. That's your best chance of staying safe. Yeah. You know, no trap doors, no trick entrances. You guys should go hide in there. So still more family arguments.
Yeah.
The mom and the daughter end up going into the shed with Sam. Sam goes with them, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Sam and the dad.
Yeah, Sam and the dad, because I know that Sam is just like, I'll take the dad's Brian. I'll take Brian and we'll go outside. Dean, you go with Ted inside.
Into the house.
Maybe Sam and Brian kind of searched around a little bit and then went back into the shed, because the next time we do see them, everybody is in the shed, much to Kate's reluctance of, like, yeah, I'm not going in there.
Right. Which this totally reminded me of that commercial. I forget which one it is, but it's like, it's a mockery of, like, the Scary Movies, and there's a whole bunch of teenagers that are running away from a serial killer, and they're like, let's go hide behind the chainsaws. They're like, okay. That's what this scene reminded me of.
Car? Are you crazy?
Yes, exactly.
You should run into the woods, you know.
Yes. Let's go hide behind the wall.
Head to the cemetery. Yes, I also love that commercial.
Right. And it's like the serial killer is like, oh, what?
He's just like, oh God, you guys are making this too easy.
Really? That's what that scene reminded me of.
Yeah.
So Dean and dickhead brother Ted go back into the house, and they go to the closet where the girl disappeared, and they're checking it out. And very smartly, Ted grabs a kitchen knife out of one of the packing boxes. So yay, Ted, for that. Yeah. Dean peels back some of the boards and is like, you know, this is how she comes and goes. And I love Ted's like, do you smell that? And he's like, every day, death.
We should maybe stop calling him Dickhead Ted at this moment, because he is actually, like, working alongside Dean, helping, you know. Yeah.
Yes.
He got the I told you so out, and he's like, see? All right, let's go fix this.
All right. So Uncle Ted and Dean are now in the crawl space. They went through the closet walls, and they're now in this crawl space.
Yeah.
And it was very reminiscent of No Exit, where it was Dean and Joe in the wall. So cramped quarters, spider webs, you know, and they're just inching their way in between these walls.
There was a lot of this episode that was reminiscent of No Exit to me.
Yes.
I don't know if it was maybe just the darkness and kind of the quietness and I don't know. There's something about it.
Yeah. As they're like shimmying their way through these narrow passageways, Dean finds a hole in the floor and is like, oh God.
Yeah.
I'm going to go down. And Ted's like, are you sure? And Dean's like, you want to go? Yeah. So Dean is like, he has to go down. So as he's like trying to wedge his body down into this hole, he's like, his mantra is, please nobody grab my legs. Please nobody grab my legs.
I love that.
Which is what I say, like every time I go down into a basement. I'm like, please don't grab my feet. Please don't grab my feet. Please don't grab my feet.
Yeah. So in this little like hole, this tunnel, he finds like a graveyard of scavenged carcasses, rats, including little Buster.
Dog is what's for dinner.
Dog is what's for dinner. There's also rats. There's other indistinguishable animals. It's fur and blood and flies and stink. He keeps searching around. He finds like a cave drawing almost, but against like the basement
it's like
wall.
Finger painting.
In blood.
In blood.
Of stick figures of a boy and a girl.
Holding hands.
Keep that in your brain. And as he's searching, Ted is hearing noises where he is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
and
the
goes off to
the
explore.
Scratching.
Yes. He hears the creaking and does the whole like, hello?
He doesn't really go off to explore. No, he doesn't go off to explore.
I feel like he turned around and started like, is there somebody
I think he's
down?
Like maybe just taking a few steps either way.
Steps? Okay. Because
when he does too late find out who it is, turns around, sees the girl who in no time like screams and then jabs a knife through his neck.
Out the back of his head.
Yeah.
Not an easy thrust, by the way. You know? And
then poor Dean arrives on the scene too late, and then a dead Ted head kind of like falls through the hole. Not decapitated, but he just like falls down and just perfectly his head kind of falls
into the hole that
leans
Dean
into the
had
hole.
just come through.
Yeah. There are a lot of great jump moments just in that like 2-minute scene.
Yes. Yes.
Very good.
Amazing. I love the cinematography in this because it's like you were kind of like creeping around with them. You know, you're like, don't turn around, don't turn around, don't turn around, you know. But Dean is a little taken aback by Ted's death. He doesn't just like Dean handle it like, okay, you know, he's dead. He's actually a little disturbed by what he just saw.
I think he's pretty upset because earlier when he's threatening Ted with the gun that he doesn't have, and like Sam is like, hey, you know, what's going on? Dean does specifically say, I'm not going to let him or this bastard or anybody else die tonight.
Yep. He's on a mission. He's on an absolute mission. So back in the shed, Dean comes back with no Ted.
Yeah.
And no Danny either.
Yeah, you're right.
So Mom's like, no Danny? No, but you know, I think he's still out there. Don't worry, I think he's still alive. Where's Ted? Ted's outside. Why is Ted outside? Because I had to carry him, you know, outside from the house. Yeah. And what does that mean? You know, I'm sorry. Dean apologizes.
Many times.
You know? Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry. He's dead. I shouldn't have left him alone. He doesn't say it's my fault, but he says I shouldn't have left him alone.
Yeah.
You know.
Mom's having a hard time accepting this news. And it's funny, you said earlier something about denial, because here I wrote, denial is a very powerful thing.
Yeah. No, you know, yeah, because she doesn't accept it.
No, he's not dead. No. What do you mean he's not dead? You don't actually mean that. Poor Dean, you know, having to deliver this terrible news of not only did he not find their son,
Danny,
but he lost their brother. Yeah.
So outside, Dean and Dad have a little chat, and there's a little bit of a backstory. We learn more about the family tragedy, what brought them to living out here in the country. Yeah. And that's that they had an older son. Was his name Andy?
Because like a brief scene before that, Susie's kind of breaking down, you know, doing a little bit of a rocking motion. It was just like, oh no, why does everything happen to us? And he says something about Andy. Yep. Yeah, and then outside, you know, Brian says Andy was our oldest son who
he doesn't say died in a
crash.
car accident. He's like got himself killed in a car accident, which makes me think that he was the driver and crashed the car. And I'm like, I just hated the way he said that. I mean, nothing against him. You know, tragedy is tragedy. But, you know, a parent who blames the child for their death, it is hard. And I mean, the answer is they just wanted a fresh start, which is what brought them there. You know, the death of the oldest son, you know, almost caused the death of their family, you know, and their marriage. And it may still, you know, he still doesn't know if, you know, they're going to be able to recover from that or this, you know, this current tragedy.
Right.
So Dean is now determined to get Danny back.
You know, Sam comes up by and he's like, we need to talk. They need an aside.
Found some answers.
Yeah, it's got some answers through Rebecca's diary. He learns that the girl is possibly Rebecca's daughter that was fathered by her father, Mr. Bill Gibson, and made her ashamed of it. You know, all she would write about is like being shamed of being pregnant. And then he himself hid the kid away from the world, which explains why her eyes were the way they were, because if all she's ever known is like darkness
inside of this house,
then they've like become accustomed to that, and was basically caged up like an animal her whole life.
I love that Dean's discovery of this, like as Sam is trying to explain what the family dynamic is here, Dean doesn't get it right away.
Yeah.
You know, he kind of has a Joey moment. He's like, what? She was pregnant? She was, you know, teen pregnancy, you know, Rent Juno, get over it.
You're right.
You know? And then Sam literally leans in, is like, no.
Yeah.
You know? And he finally is like,
it.
There it is.
Think about it. Yes.
Oh. He was the daddy and the baby daddy.
The baby daddy and the baby granddaddy.
And all three.
Yeah. All three? What do you mean all three?
Well, not the granddaddy. Wait.
It was the baby's granddaddy,
the baby
daddy, and the baby granddaddy.
Baby's granddaddy. It's the baby, his daughter's daddy and baby daddy and the baby's
Let's just stop saying daddy. It's like really disturbing.
And of course, you know, Dean is like harkens back to that Austrian story of
so I want to get into this if you don't mind, because you said this episode felt very X-Files to you, but Sarah Gamble said this episode was inspired by this story.
Austrian story. Yep. Which could have been also what inspired the X-Files story.
No, because this didn't emerge until 2008.
After. Okay.
So this was only like a year before this episode happened. So I was I had no idea about this X-Files episode, but I was like, this is like Supernatural meets SPN meets SVU was Fred I wrote, which meets X-Files. It's kind of like a triage of sorts going on, because I do think that SVU did a riff from the headline story like this.
Oh, about the Austrian dad?
I had no idea about this real life instance, but I do remember seeing an SVU episode that was
I remember reading about this in real time. I remember reading about it, and it's so horrifying.
When Dean says story ripped from Austrian headlines, he is referencing this guy named Josef Fritzl. One of his kids, Elizabeth, he started sexually abusing at 11 years old, and then at 18 he lured her into like captivity in his basement. He had secretly started building this basement chamber and then lured her into it. He kept her in there for 24 years. And during those 24 years, he was assaulting her. And she ended up getting pregnant, or she ended up having 7 children by him.
7 times. Yep.
3 of them she kept with her, so they were also raised in captivity, so they never knew daylight their whole life, or up until she did escape. 3 of them he took in with him, faked they just showed up on my doorstep, so let me legally adopt them. Finally, when one of her children needed to be hospitalized, somehow she convinced her father to let them all go to the hospital and then that is how she escaped. Like someone in the hospital like tipped them off. He's like, there's something not right about this.
Yeah.
And was finally able to, get the police and tell her story and tell the police.
He was arrested finally.
He's arrested. He's life imprisoned in a mental facility, and his wife had no idea.
I don't get that. I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying I don't get that.
I don't either, but I went to like a rabbit hole with this. Also because I've been super into, are you familiar with the Sarah Lawrence creepy guy? Well, anyway, there's a documentary on Hulu called Stolen Youth. That's very, very interesting. But I read an article about this guy in like 2019 or 2020, and he was kind of not ever really looked into by the police until this article came out. And then when he was finally investigated, then people were like, oh, this is like really fucked up. And then he finally got arrested, finally got convicted. But before, everyone was just like, I don't know what we can do. And apparently the mother did file a missing persons report. The father forced Elizabeth to like write letters saying like, oh, I ran away to join a cult.
I'm fine. Yeah.
And also when one of the kids like showed up on their doorstep, he faked a phone call from Elizabeth saying like, please take care of this child. And then the wife, Rosemary, was like, how does she know our new phone number? We know she hasn't spoken to us in years, and went to the police then, and they were just like, So, but it's so fucked up.
Fucked up.
Apparently, he had his mother in captivity too. He kept his mother
Austrian
in the attic.
guy?
Yeah, he put his mother in the attic for like 20 years or something until she died. Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember reading that. Oh my God. And again, the wife didn't know?
I don't know about that. She must not have. Or maybe she was just like so, I don't know, in denial.
Under his spell.
Denial is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Or under his spell.
Well,
sociopaths can really be convincing.
As Dean says for the second time in this episode, humans, man.
Yeah. And also, it's funny that I said before that this is the second time Deliverance has been referenced in the series. Yeah. The other episode was the one about humans. Was the Benders. The season one, the Benders. Yeah. Which was a similar, it's not ghosts, it's humans, and they're also kind of like hillbilly-esque kind of.
Yes. Yep, indeed. Yep.
Yeah.
Sam, of course, is actually being the logical one here in all of this, and says, just because, her life was hell, meaning the daughter, just because she suffered through all of this doesn't give her the right to murder. And Dean kind of calls him out. He's like, you don't know what hell is. I'm like, that's unfair. It's unfair because no. And Sam wasn't speaking in the sense of true hell.
Literal hell.
He was he was speaking metaphorically the way humans in everyday life talk about hell. Hell being the unspeakable. Yeah. I don't know. I thought this was a touch out of character for Sam, to be honest. Because he was a little bit black and white with it. He was like, oh, even though, she was kept in captivity for frickin' 20 years. And raped by her father. Yeah. Right. Maybe. Assumedly, if he raped his own daughter, he probably, did things to her too. And he was just like, that doesn't mean that she gets the license to kill. It's like, well, she literally doesn't know any better. Right. Like if she has zero moral compass, she doesn't know any kind of the rules of society. If she's an animal defending her territory, yeah, exactly. So you're right. I mean, it was uncharacteristically black and white of Sam. You're right, and Sam is usually kind of logical in that way, but I think it was logical in the wrong direction of what he would usually. He's usually more sympathetic to this kind of thing. Yes, but maybe it's because they were all like, it's a ghost, it's a ghost, it's a ghost, it's a ghost, whoop, table or rug pulled out from under sheet, that theory. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, they're human, therefore this is wrong. I guess. I don't know. But the question is, how do we find her? Yeah. How do we, this is the problem. What's the solution? They're like, well, if the dad kept her in the house, she had to be fed. Yeah. Right. So how did he feed her? Oh, probably through the dumbwaiter that's been spackled over. Mm-hmm. So they bust through the dumbwaiter, and lo and behold, straight down into the basement is, it's a straight shot.
It's a tunnel, yeah.
It's a tunnel. So down Dean goes. Again.
Yes, Dean is the one that goes despite the dad's, like, no, I should go. He's my son. Dean is like, no, I must do it.
I said I would save Danny. I'm going to save Danny.
Yes.
So in the meantime,
but did you notice that, like, when they're peering down into the basement from the dumbwaiter, when the camera is pointing up, did you see like the fingernail scratches on the inside of the rim of the dumbwaiter?
Yeah. And it's like she must have been trying for years.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, my question is, at what point did he wall up the dumbwaiter? Did he decide to stop?
I think that was the realtor. No, I thought that was probably the realtor being like, it smells. Let's plaster this up.
And she was like, how, that was her. Well, again,
I mean, she had other ways of like going in and out of the house, but
in the meantime,
yeah,
the camera finds Danny. I'm assuming he's in the basement because he's on dirt. He's on a dirted, dirt floor. And what we see him through, it looked like night vision goggles almost, except without the like goggle lenses. It was just kind of green, gray, grainy, And we see him. He's gagged. He's bound. He doesn't seem to be hurt, but he's clearly being held against his will. Yeah. And the girl comes crawling out of a hole towards him and is all kind of smiles for him. And as she crawls closer to him, is like, ta-da, and holds up a rat.
Yeah.
And she's very proud of this rat.
Yes.
She's like,
it's very cat-like, this.
Yes, exactly.
I brought a gift for you.
And here's your gift. And Danny's like, don't want a rat. Don't know what you're showing me. And so she shows him. She's like, oh, well, this is what you do with a rat. like tears the rat in half almost, it seems. And then takes a giant bite. It's like, this is what we do. Meal time.
Danny does not appreciate this gift.
Not so much. Not so much. Screaming behind the gag.
Yep.
Poor Danny. Back in the shack, it's now the mom and daughter who are alone in the shack, right? There's nobody else because the dad is with.
The dad is with the boys. Sam has had him go fetch something to make rope out of, like curtains, etc.
Curtains to lower down. So mom and daughter are alone, and suddenly one of the boarded up windows like smashes in, and much screaming, and chaos ensues. But we don't see what happens because we cut back to the basement.
Dean is there. He's finding, piece by piece, all of their weapons kind of scattered around.
The rosary beads, a cross at first, because the first thing we see is like a cross and rosary beads. I was like, what does that mean? And then it's like, we see the sawed-off shotgun. I was like, oh, it's all their hunter stuff. And then not only do we see the sawed-off, then we see like Dean's favorite, like pearl handled pistol.
The pretty gun.
Yes. Yeah, so we see that, and it's like, haha. Dean's like, she's a kleptomaniac.
Yes.
This girl. But luckily, everything is loaded. So as he's like crawling along, he's like collecting all his items back. He hears Danny like screaming, muffled screaming, not off in the distance, but, a ways away.
Yeah.
And heads off towards Danny screaming, finds Danny, cuts his bindings loose, and is like, come on, let's go. And Danny's like, yeah, we need to go, or before he gets back. And Dean's like, wait, what? Her brother.
Yeah.
So.
Cue brother.
Cue the brother. I literally wrote, rar. All of a sudden, this like body launches at Dean, and now it's like the daughter, the girl, but a boy.
Yeah.
Some feral boy child.
Yes.
Launches at Dean.
Yeah.
So back at the shack.
Yeah, back at the shack, the girls are getting attacked by the girl outside. Now she's like knifing through the walls of the shed. They are leaning against the shed. It's kind of that classic like shot of like you lean there, and then the knife comes like right by the side of your face.
Yes, exactly. And it's like quiet and then slam.
Yeah.
That's
And
again,
then now they're like standing in the middle, like, okay, we're not going to be near any doors or windows or walls.
Right.
But then there's like kind of a corner at the bottom that keeps getting like jiggled. So there is like a trapdoor type of thing at the bottom of the shed that she is trying to get through.
She's going to, and the mom comes to the rescue, and I don't know if she has like a rake or a hoe or something that she's like slamming up against the bottom of the opening to try to prevent this girl from breaking into the shed. In the meantime, at the house, Dean is now, Sam's able to lift Danny to safety because he dropped curtains down the dumbwaiter as a rope, and is able to like pull Danny to safety while Dean is left to battle yet another, feral child.
Right. But I don't think Sam knows that at the time. Like, I think he's just kind of hearing things down there, but
yeah, I mean, he's just like pulling up this, pre-teenage kid. He's like, oh, come on, Danny. But the Dean in his struggles, one of the things he does is he grabs his flashlight and like shines it in the boy's eyes and blinds him, momentarily, just like the sister was blinded. And then the kid kind of snaps back and like goes to like leap on Dean, and Dean is able to reach and pull his beautiful pearl-handled pistol and shoot the boy like 3 times point blank.
Yeah.
As he's falling on him, basically, as he's like chest first, bang, 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 shoots the kid, and he's not his usual Dean bravado self.
Right. Like, I did it.
It's like, no, I killed a kid.
He's upset that he had to resort to shooting him.
Yeah. So back at the shack, the sister bursts in. She's able to overpower the mom's rake, bursts in through this like flip door at the bottom of the wall, and is attacking the mom and the daughter until somebody grabs her feet and just like snakes her out through the same hole she just crawled in. Doesn't pull her out, like whips her out of the shack.
Yeah. We are inside of the shed with the mom and the daughter, and all you hear outside are her banshee screams, scuffling, and then you hear knife stabbies, and like her screaming, and then silence. And
in walks Dad, but he is covered in blood, holding a knife that is bloody, and Mom like doesn't embrace him. She kind of steps back from him and looks at him like.
The boys come out from the house. The kids
traumatized,
are like huddled, on the stairs with the mom, completely traumatized, like crying.
Dead girl in the bushes.
They see the dead girl in the bushes, and then it's like, all right.
So that happened. So in the daylight hours, we see Dean finishing fixing the tires on the Impala. My question is, did he have more than one spare tire?
Yes, that was kind of my thing. It's like, how did he fix all 4 of them?
All the tires.
Unless he had like, I don't even know if this exists, like a tire patch kit.
Not for
unless he carries them, being the son of a mechanic. Maybe he has special thing. Whatever. TV magic. He's fixed all the tires. They're ready to go.
Fixed all the tires.
Everyone's
the truck
fine.
is ready to go. Everyone's fine. Thanks for the head start, over the police. So let us leave before you call the police about the dead bodies scattered around your property. And I think we'll be okay. If not, we'll just keep trying. So So off Sam and Dean go. So later on, Sam and Dean are stopped, like a little pit stop. They're stopped under a bridge, under an overpass. Sam has a burger for Dean, and Dean looks at it but doesn't eat it, which means clearly there is something wrong.
Yes.
If Dean does not eat a burger.
Yes. There's even like the look of Sam being like, oh, what?
Yeah. Are we going to talk?
What is wrong? And here's part 2 of Dean's reveal about how, he starts off by like, I really felt for those kids, they didn't know any better. They were literally just, you said it earlier, animals defending their territory. Sam kind of tries to like, I can see how you would feel for them, like you were kind of in a similar situation.
Yeah.
Dean's
Forced.
like, no, we are not the same, because I enjoyed what I did.
I'm worse. I'm past the animal stage of instinct. Yeah. I enjoyed torturing those souls. After being on the rack for so long, giving it back to somebody else felt really good, and it actually made my pain stop, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I didn't care who it was or what they had done. I was still going to torture them.
Yep. And
which is news to us.
Yeah, like,
you know?
oh,
Yep,
okay.
and news to Sam. And
here's where he says, like, and all these people that I've been trying to save for like the past month or so, it's not ever going to fill that void. It's not ever going to fix the way that I felt down there.
Yeah. Knowing that I enjoyed it, the guilt associated with knowing that I enjoyed hurting and torturing souls, there's no fix for that. It doesn't matter how many people I help now. The knowledge that I enjoyed it, the memory of me enjoying it, will always be a pit for me, which makes me go all the way back to Lilith saying, don't you remember how much fun we had?
Yeah.
You know, and Alistair, don't you remember how much fun we had? I thought they were just being ironic, which is like when someone's being tortured, you're like, don't you remember how fun that was? It's like, no, I was being tortured. No, they were actually saying, you enjoyed this.
Yeah.
So I thought they were being ironic. Yeah, in all those episodes, every single time we hear them repeat Lilith and Alistair saying those things, I just brushed it off as them being assholes and, you know, torturing a guy who's been tortured. But no, they were actually saying, ding, 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 you liked it.
Yeah.
So now Dean's being tortured on Earth. He was tortured in hell physically, and now he's being tortured on Earth with the guilt and the feelings of having been the torturer in hell. My question, because that's how the episode ends. Sorry, that's blackout. There's no drive away. There's no whatever. That's how the episode ends.
Yes.
My question about this entire episode is, what started it? Why did that day did the daughter come out and kill the dad? Because why did he act so surprised that she was there? Yeah. That's, for me, those are hanging questions that we'll never know. We'll never get the answer to, but that was one of those, what started it?
You know, there are real life stories of people in captivity that just one day they find a way to escape.
Right.
You know, there's maybe they have like an extra burst of courage, or they find like that little tiny loophole, or, you know, it's like, oh, here's a window in which I can go and break forth. Not just this Austrian story, but like other stories of people that have been held against their will.
Elizabeth Smart. I mean, come on. Yeah. It's
right. So
that girl.
I think his surprise of being like, you was just like, how dare you leave your cage? You have crossed the line between your place and my place. So that's probably what that was.
But he just seems so afraid, I guess.
He did seem so afraid.
His reaction from the second he saw her was, get away, get away, get away.
Right. Which could have been just like he was not expecting her to ever show her face or come near him. Why she decided that day, that time to do it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just an animal thing. It was just like you know what? I'm the alpha now.
I'm gonna bite your face today. Yeah. I mean, why? It's the same thing. Like, why do dogs turn on their owners suddenly? You know, we only hear about the attack. We don't know what led up to it.
Right. Exactly.
So, a great episode. I mean, all around. Not only is it like a bomb at the end, you know, something about, you know, Dean. And I'm not giving Sam enough credit, because I went back and I watched a little bit of the end of the previous episode with Dean's reveal.
Yeah.
And Jared Padalecki listening to Jensen retell this story of the horrible, awful things that he did. That's got to be so difficult to not upstage somebody with your own emotions while your colleague is getting their emotions out and getting their story out. Having been a person who's had to sit and listen to either friends or family extol the literal tortures that they've been through or have done.
Yeah.
They both did such a good job.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jared as an actor, but Sam as a brother, by letting Dean say the things he needs to say. And then in this next episode, when he has to listen to yet another horror coming from his brother, listens and takes it in and doesn't step into, make him feel better right away. I mean, he does try to say, listen, they were animals, but that's it. That's where he stops. He lets Dean keep going and is internally horrified by what he's hearing and is struggling with, this is my brother.
Yeah.
So listening to a loved one describe torture that they went through and then what they did. I mean, anybody
and how
who
they
has
felt and how they felt about it, which is not what you would expect them to feel. It's like, I did a bad thing and I really liked it.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah. So, I mean, bravo to both of them. And like I said, I did not give Jared Padalecki props when I should have. And it's only because I went back and I was like, wow. Yeah. Wow, he's always blurry in the background of these shots.
That helps too. It's like when they're like blurring the
the foreground, background,
secondary character.
But even when he was like, they do a cut to him, it was never overpowering Dean's trauma.
Yeah,
and I just, that's got to be hard. That's got to be so hard as a performer. And especially
maybe I feel, I feel like at this point, they've been in this show 4 seasons now.
They know what the other person is capable of.
I think they know what the other person is capable of, and I think that they both were able to react how they really would to a good friend admitting something terrible.
Oh no, I don't mean difficult as in, boy, I had to muscle through that, but I mean difficult to know that the other person is actually experiencing the feelings and the emotions going on with it. Not that was a difficult task. I'm sorry, I didn't say it right.
But I feel like they were both very natural in the way that it's like, this is how Jensen would confess something really terrible to his best friend, and this is how Jared would react to that terrible confession from his best friend.
Exactly.
If this was the first episode they ever met with each other, it probably would have been like, what do I do?
No, I guess I just meant it's hard. It would have been hard to know that your partner had to, your colleague had to keep going through this scene after scene after scene, or take after take after take, and live those moments. That's what I meant by hard emotionally, not hard actor wise.
Yes. But yeah, I love this episode too. It was just it felt different than the other episodes. It felt kind of old school Supernatural in a little bit of a way. I liked the twist that the monster was human.
Yes. And they only did that in the Benders.
Yes, they've only done that once before, but it is nice to visit again because humans can be monsters. As
said it twice.
By the actual real story that this was inspired by. This actually happened. The real story is 25 times worse than this year that they showed.
Yeah.
So that was Family Remains. We will see you next week for Chris Angel is a douchebag. Yay, finally.
Let me get there.
I hope it's laughter. Thank you so much for listening to us. You can find us anywhere you can find podcasts. So please subscribe or follow or whatever that particular platform may offer. You can also review and rate us if that particular platform offers those options. It would be a huge help. Please. You can also find us on social media. We are at Salt and Burn This everywhere, even YouTube, which you can also listen to us on if that is your preferred way to listen to podcasts.
It's pretty cool.
It is kind of cool. We have a little sound wave thing. We don't have our faces yet. Sorry.
Not yet.
We're not camera ready most of the time when we do this. I think be appreciative that we have sound waves and not
we have very long days and very early mornings.
I know. Okay, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.